Hello and welcome to the Rise Above the Grind podcast. I am your hostess, the Consultress, here bringing you amazing conversations with next level thinkers. In this age of disruption where nothing goes back to normal and everything's up for review, I'm curating a panel of VIPs as well as guest experts who are changing the game. Christy Morrell-Stinson's here with us today, who is empowering second generation entrepreneurs to evolutionize their family businesses, their businesses that they are bringing into the next generation and doing it with intention and in an enterprise level. So I am so jazzed to have this conversation with you, Christy. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Melissa, thanks for having me.
Amen, lady. Again, I curate these rooms based on vibe, intentionality, and impact in this world. And so I know you're up to amazing things. I come from a family business background. So when we first talked and you're like, oh, that second generation or that next level of leadership that that revolutionizes a business, I'm like, that just spoke to my heart. That was like, mom and pop business in my family and the bagel stores and real estate, and how the second generation, we're all taking those lessons and implementing them in a different way. But my first question is always that I love to hear is like, in your work, in your world, in your life, can you please define the term grind for me, how that
Yeah.
shows up and what meaning it takes on in your realm?
Yeah, well, right away, the literal meaning of the grind, right, is to wear something down.
Mm,
So I could say that the grind feels like sandpaper on your soul. It's really a state of delusion because you think it's your effort that matters and everything's urgent, everything's demanding your attention. You have to keep this constant movement and you're trying to keep everybody happy, but oftentimes you're being undervalued. So
keep talking because I'm like, oh, the sandpaper. So,
yes.
you
Well,
know, I'm
so this, go ahead.
I just most so I heard sandpaper on your skin kind of grinding you out and not being able to feel like you're in your own skin a little bit. Can you please like expand upon that? I want to just kind of see
Yeah.
what you mean. Like give us some context to where that
Yeah.
shows
So
up.
sandpaper on your soul, because when you're mistaking effort for progress, right?
Thank you.
And you're just trying to make things happen through your own strength rather than allowing them to flow naturally, then what happens is you can lose time and you can be losing opportunities because you're in this unnecessary motion, right? And society praises this. We praise the hustle and the grind, the late nights, look how hard I'm working or look how busy I am. But
Mm.
when we're in that place, we're outside our natural frequency, and this leads to burnout.
Yeah, 100%. And I hear, like I'm trying to hear myself clearly through your perspective, going like, yeah, culture really wants us to show how hard we're working. And that assumes a level of expectation that A, you need to show how hard you're working, that other people need to be able to observe your hard work. But does that ever really happen? Like all the hard work happens when you're in your task, when you're in your flow. So there's one like vanity metric that doesn't necessarily hit the ground. So I got to show people that I'm working hard. So there's this other assumption that it has to be hard, that there is this necessary piece. And like, listen, all transformation comes with its stickiness, its messiness, but choosing your hard is actually a choice. There's no expectation that it is hard, and that's a permanent state of, well, if you want to be successful, has to be hard. So, I how did you come to this like wise perspective of awareness around this cultural phenomenon that we're all experiencing?
Well, I spent many years in the grind myself and um, battling for progress from my zone of competence, which was pretty massive actually. A lot of things that I can do, that I'm good at, that I'm happy to work hard for. But what I found is that I was getting increasingly disconnected from my own sense of purpose and identity. And
Oof.
everybody deserved my full attention, even if they couldn't pay me well. So there was a lack of boundaries in the grind, right? And so my assumption at the time was the law of reciprocity would have my back. But I came to realize through, deep inner work that really there was a lack of self-respect going on. And this stemmed from a lack of self-worth. And it wasn't, the unhappiness of self-loathing at all. It was just a misrecognition of my own value and a misunderstanding of, what is my true state of genius where my work is joyful. And I don't think that hard work is wrong, but I think that when you mistake hard work for value, that's where we start to split and betray ourselves.
I mean, you said a lot. The lack of boundaries, and again, you'll hear me talk about like the industrial age versus now this age of disruption where everything's kind of wonky, but it's also in this regenerative space. Is like we were taught in the last couple hundred years, so nobody on the planet right now is immune to this thinking that we have to be something prescripted, sit down, shut up, shut ourselves off, be disconnected, and perform. Just do, and that is disconnected from purpose by nature. So when
Yes.
I hear you talking about that lack of self-respect, it's almost like an awakening to the fact that no, wait a minute, my value is from that creative impulse. It is not necessarily that I have to placate myself. Anybody who wants to get on my calendar can do so. And I am exhausting myself, giving time and expertise away, but not necessarily honoring where I'm being most valuable. So, I know you've talked about this in your work as a, second generation leadership type of evolution. So I want to kind of open that up in that container. Where do you see this show up in the relationships and in the build out of these enterprise level businesses that you work with?
Well, right. And so my typical client is a founder who's actually going out on their own to start something new, and they're not necessarily following along with with what the family, line is, or they may be taking on leadership in a family enterprise, but their vision is different. And so where that shows up for them is if they don't really have a true sense of this is my purpose, this is my life purpose, and they in that core, and that it's not being reflected in what people think the business means, right? So I call that meaning. And so when that's aligned, then work is joyful. When that's aligned, there's a frequency that's carrying forward and that's attracting people in.
Mm.
But when that's missing, then the only thing there is intellectual or physical strength to force things to happen.
Wow. I'm just going to drop the mic right there. When alignment and authenticity is missing, what's left is intellectual brute strength to push
Yes.
through, to make it work, to put that square peg inside of that round hole. Or did I say that backwards? That round peg inside the square? No. Anyway,
Yeah, you
um,
got it right.
listen, I am second generation from an immigrant, and he always had his idioms upside down, inside out, and backwards. So sometimes I have to check
Love it.
myself. But I see that resembled in like remembering my family business upbringing, in that
Mm.
we all were counter help inside the family business, coming to the bagel stores 4 in the morning, starting the coffee, being the smile on the face of the business to serve the customers. But then when our generation came in, the culture had changed, the context had changed. So my cousin actually bought into a business and wanted to make the retail bagel store more of like a gourmet and health food store. But like the twain did not meet, right? High gluten flour doesn't equal gluten-free living, right? So we had that juxtaposition of like we have this different set of
Hmm.
principles that we want to found our life on, having had this
Yeah.
wonderful experience, uh, relating to people, relating to each other. But now I'm like, I can't in good conscience go open a bagel store because my fundamentals of how I'm teaching my family to live now are vastly different. So, I'm going to take these principles and go create something new. And so there's a bit of grind in that creating something new too, isn't there? I
Yeah.
saw myself come up against my own personal limitations and my previous thoughts about what I thought was possible. How do you address that kind of thinking for these next geners that you're supporting?
Well, it starts with being really, really clear on what you desire and what you require and where that's emerging from.
Mm-hmm.
And when that desire or that sense of non negotiable requirement is emerging from this is who I am, because this is where I'm going and this is what my dream is, or this is what my sense of purpose is, then what happens is there's a different energy in setting boundaries. When that's missing, then it's like boundaries can be a little bit arbitrary, and oftentimes it's hard to really pin it down or hold your ground because the influence of what other people want and trying to make them happy can overpower your sense of boundaries. Now I think that when you're starting something new, there's a certain requirement of what you have to invest in, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
going to require your full attention and it may require your hard work and dedication, but you're doing it from a state of joy. And there's like I said, a frequency that comes with that, where the things that you need, the things that you desire are attracted to you. And
Mm.
people respond to you differently because when you're operating out of self worth, they respect you differently. It's not really so much about being liked, it's about being respected and having that reflected back to you. Like, I have value here. I'm not a commodity.
Oh, lady, I'm like, we could talk for days. Yeah. And also, in this breaking out of the industrial mindset, I'm not a commodity. It's for every single individual, not just entrepreneurs, not just people who are into
Correct.
9 to 5s, not just people who are into agriculture or stay-at-home moms. We are
Yes.
breaking out of this mold, and it requires that joie de vivre. And like that is upside down and backwards from what we've been taught. It's like, sit down, shut up, screw the screw. We're in the industrial age here. And it's like, no, let your inner songbird out of the cage and, do the things that
Yeah.
seem whimsical or fantastical to most people
Mhm.
because that's where your value actually lives. So we have to like
Yes,
unlearn all this garbage to be able to
that's
come
right.
present to that. And that actually leads our value. I mean, powerful, powerful stuff. So, as we transition from this one-on-one space into our VIP panel, I want to first ask, where can people go to find more about you and to link up with you, where they can
Yeah.
interact, maybe hire you, things like this. Like, where do you want people to go to learn more?
Yeah, well, if you go to YouTube and you look up Founders Value Code, you will find me on YouTube and you'll see my signature seminar there. Otherwise, I lean on LinkedIn for a lot of my presence right now because I'm back in the background working on a fresh new website. And so if you find me on LinkedIn, that would be fabulous because you'll learn a lot about my work there. I do have a newsletter you can subscribe to. It's called The Sovereign Architect.
Ooh.
And it's tailored for next gen visionaries who are founders or investors in business. But it really does speak a little more broadly than that as well, because we include some really great principles that you can apply from whatever position that you're currently in.
And this is what I love about the grand pursuit of business. And I'm going to open this up to my VIP panel here to kind of like workshop this around how does this show up? Because I believe entrepreneurship saves the world because we're working on leading edge value, leading edge solutions to current day problems, and we're constantly innovating. So thank you so much for the work that you do in the world. And now I would like to invite Laura up off mic here. I'm going to add you to our spotlight. So, Laura, what are you picking up so far from this conversation?
I really enjoy this conversation a lot. My dad owned a business also. And I saw that he got to control parts of his schedule, although he really did let his vendors and clients really control a lot more of it. But I saw that as a much better opportunity than the 9 to 5 kind of corporate telling you what to wear. I am building a business right now that I see a very natural fit for my now 21-year-old son. He's helped and supported me and helped produce a podcast and helped with some of the artwork and things like that. But I see this natural fit for him in one specific area. So my question for you, Christy, is as right, like and maybe I'm the second generation because dad was self-employed too.
Huh.
But how can we, as the first geners, create a smoother transition? Or, like you
Mm.
had used the word naturally, help them to be able to naturally. Is there a way that we can set that up and give them that autonomy? Obviously, it's their choice whether or not they decide to come into it, but is there a way to smooth that transition a little bit?
Well, yeah, great question. And I would say it's a combination of frameworks and conversations. You got to have the conversations, right? And those should be starting to happen 10 years in advance, right? As like ideal is that if you're going to do a family transition, these conversations are starting to happen a decade in advance, and that there's a pathway where things begin to overlap more and more so that there's a natural progression of leadership. The cliff doesn't work very well.
Mm-hmm.
um, and I see the value of business transition coaches, right? And so I've been able to be part of those teams in the past. And you take a family office approach where everybody's pulling in the same direction and the right conversations are happening, and you have an understanding, right? You have an agreement of how we're going to move forward, and everybody comes to the table and it's facilitated so that we can have agreement about this stage of development or this stage of transition. And then you stage it out across time.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't, in my specific set of circumstances, right? He's one of those beautiful 21-year-old who was a teenager during COVID individuals. He's still figuring out a lot of stuff. So I don't know that we're even ready for, although we have talked about, like, I could see you running this part of the business. I could see you taking that and it becoming your own thing. I don't think he's ready at all for those conversations yet, other than to go, huh, okay, maybe. So maybe a little bit more seasoning.
Well, I would say a catalyst project could really help bring you together.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be the whole kit and caboodle, right? You can start with a catalyst project that's a small way of kind of experimenting and proving how this can flow. And when I answered your question, I said frameworks and conversations. So there needs to be some kind of quality system and framework that guides this. And it doesn't mean it's set in stone, right? But it's also not water. So you got to kind of have that jello, right? That provides some structure and some framework for that next generation to step into.
Yeah,
As a Midwesterner, we love a good jello.
Especially with walnuts and marshmallows or something like that, right?
I mean, listen, the possibilities are endless, especially with Jello. But no, this is the part of the conversation. I want to invite Tildette Varone into it here because Tildette's background in family businesses specifically. What are you hearing right now, Tildette, and add your voice to the conversation?
Yes. Well, I'm hearing many different directions we can go to. And I think what is really important that Christy is bringing up is the alignment, the joy, the purpose, the intentionality of every generation, right? We want to understand our own values, understand the second, third generation values, and then how do we find the common ground to integrate so that we create that vision that pulls us forward together? And I think that's why I really appreciated, Christy, when you offered the Catalyst project, because that's a beginning and we're chunking it down instead of taking a whole thing and making it overwhelming. We are just doing a tasting. We are playing with it and we're finding our way, being a catalyst. So I really like the Catalyst project there. And I also want to emphasize again what Christy said about not mistaking effort for progress. Even in our effort in understanding the other generation, there may not be a progress. We think we're putting effort, but is the effort the right effort? Is it in alignment? And is it bringing us together?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Salient point till that.
Mm-hmm. Willard, throwing the mic at you. What are
Sure.
you hearing from right now? Let's bring this conversation live. Add your voice in here.
I appreciate it. First off, Christy, Alyssa, thank you very much for the topic. And for Toadette and Laura, thank you for your feedback. A whole lot to unpack in what you're sharing, Christy. A couple of things I was taking notes on that stood out for me. Alyssa's initial question, how do you define the grind? And something I came to realize a decade or more ago was about a belief system that my grandmother instilled in me about I had to work hard, but nobody ever defined what was hard enough. So I was chasing a finish line that I didn't know where the finish line was, and I also found out there was a whole lot of other beliefs that she was born in 1893. She was not an entrepreneur, but the belief systems that she passed on to me impacted me. Love what you talked about, the busy work or the examples of the hard work. I see so many people who, to look like they're working hard, they focus on busy work, but not on results producing activities. And the thing that stood out for me and would like to get some of your feedback on, some of the clients that I've worked with, they are passing on a generational business. Two that come to mind. One is a fuel delivery company that they've been in business for over 100 years. The current owner took over running it probably about 40 years ago, and now it's transitioning to his son. And we have to look at the father, the one that's currently owned it. He was the hard work. He was the one out knocking on doors. He was the one selling things the old-fashioned way. And now here comes his 29-year-old son who's looking at processes and looking at technology and things like that. And there was a huge battle for a long time because dad wants it done the old-fashioned way. That's how the original owner did it for 100 years, and that's how we do it. So we run into those types of situations. And another example, just quickly, and again, your insights I'm looking for, another friend of mine who his father was not an entrepreneur, he actually was a factory worker. And this guy was the guy that was up early, worked late. So the son who became an entrepreneur ended up having that same type of work ethic. And in 10 years into his business, he was dying in a lot of ways. So we had to look at how do you work smarter, not harder. And for me, it really is going, okay, how do we change some of those core belief systems that people are operating with to allow them to recognize how they're really getting in their own way? Chrissy, I'm curious, since you're working with generational businesses and passing the torch, how do you see that and how do you help them navigate that change?
Yeah, it requires both parties or all the generations at the table to be open to listen with the intent to understand, right? I go back to the 7 habits of highly effective people. Listen with the intent to understand and actually drop into their world and look at it through their eyes. And that's why I love a facilitated conversation, because it can really help to get you there faster. And so I think that's the starting point, right? And then, storytelling, because I understand your values a lot better when I understand the stories behind them. Why is it important to do it the old-fashioned way? What's the value in that? Tell me about the experiences that people had that make the difference, that makes the difference. And maybe there's a way for me to step into that that's different than if you just tell me this is how it needs to be.
Yeah, I'm hearing stories versus decrees. My family business, we had the I'm the damn boss mentality. It's, right? Laura's over there shaking her fist. Yeah, I'm the boss. Do as I say, just because. But I love what you said, Christy, about why is this valuable? Let's get to the root of why you think this is the way to do it, because now we have some other variables, other givens that aren't the same as they were when you made these decisions, these decrees that made sense here. And let's harvest the value and put them into motion over here. So Willard, what I heard was industrial age mindset comes into entrepreneurships and becomes burnout. Hi, have you met Alyssa? Right? Like, you know, I'm from entrepreneur stock, but it was very industrious. Wake up, time to make the bagels, and time to get in there. You wake up with a flash, you throw some water on your face, you get in there, you serve the customers with a smile. When you're done, you crash and you sleep for 3 hours, and then maybe you have a social life after that. So learning that value set of like it's important to be dedicated to your business, I had to reverse engineer how to be dedicated to my life and what I was feeling called to that, and then be willing to question, is this for me? So often I find people are unaware or unwilling to ask the hard questions that may just blow up their circumstance into something, into the unknown, and that unknown is really scary. But being willing to pursue the question, and like Christy had said, like ask for the stories. I think that is the start point to unlock all the exponential growth and the meaning inside of that endeavor. Tiffany Alexander, welcome here to the VIP panel. What are you picking up in here? Let's continue to workshop this conversation.
There are so many one-liners. I filled up a whole half sheet of paper because the words of wisdom flowing out of you, I love so much that I cannot get enough of. But the one thing that hit me the most powerful was a part of you telling your story that said the assumption that the law of reciprocity had your back. That was something that I struggled with personally, that I gave almost to like the point of burnout. And I thought, this is what they told me to do, is that Zig Ziglar, right? You give enough people what they want and that you're going to get your own, you'll eventually get what you want. And I still operate that way, but I have to remind myself that that's the way, that's the path that I chose. Right. And so like not to face burnout and hit the grind in that. And that's what what is it? This is the way, as a super connector. Right. But also your nugget when you said operating out of self-worth. I've had to learn to show up constantly as who I am, because I can't be a different version of me for every single person. So I just show up as the real me, if and when at all possible, even on the days where it's like so hard and I turn on my camera and someone's like, are you okay? I'm like, can I be real with you right now? I need to cry. And they're like, oh my God, what did I get? Like, this is the version of Tiff you got today, right? Or something obnoxious and silly. So I appreciate how many flowing, easily words of wisdom that you were able to get. I was even looking up, was like some of those $4 words that we needed to know just came so easily out of you. And I really look forward to hearing more from you and spending more time with you.
Thank you, Tiffany. Thank you, Tiffany. I think that instead of the grind, what we need is the flow of expansion. I call it the wild blue river. I call it the wild blue river. When I'm in my state of genius and things are flowing, I call it the wild blue river. And so I named my strategy studio the Wild Blue River because I wanted to give that experience to other people. And and to shift us out of the grind and into something where joy is flowing, because that's the oil, right? Joy is the oil that greases the wheel so that the grit has something to fall into.
Yeah. Yeah.
You and these one-liners, man, you just keep going. Like, Melissa, this is now going to be a longer episode than it needs to be for other people, because this needs to be everything that's coming out of her mouth right now. People need to hear. I need a bigger spotlight. Come on my podcast.
Yeah. So
All right, Tiffany, I'd love to.
yeah, this is the place where it all happens, ladies and gentlemen. These are real conversations, unscripted, and we're providing value to each other live. So Tiff, I just want to like high five you and for coming and being as you are, because I think that's a lot of the deprogramming that we all need to hear as humanity is like, you don't have to be performative. You don't have to show up as something. I mean, there's a measure of, yeah, put on your pants in the morning. I mean, unless you're on Zoom and then whatever, but don't get up, right? But being who you are and showing up as you are, I think that goes back to some age-old wisdom, is like, you don't need to pre-script and prepare every single piece of everything. That's what an assembly line needs to have. That's what our factory systems were set up as. And when my husband took a job in manufacturing, I was like, my eyes were already open to the breakdown of the industrial age of production. And I was like, oh no, I'm sending him into the belly of the beast to go be a cog in a machine. And he's going to start thinking like that. He's going to bring that home. And I had to let that fear go, because the blessing that it brought to our house was that there was value in that thinking, in being at the right place at the right time for the right component to be able to pass on to the next phase. But in and of itself, the culture of the employees in that place was ugh. And we got to see contrast. So like the beauty wasn't the environment, the beauty was the contrast in like what do we prefer to create? And that gave us like fuel, that gave us fertile ground to design our life and design our businesses by intention. So, I just want to open this up to all the panelists here and just kind of have this, throw the mic at each other type of workshopping is, how do you see yourselves now on the cusp of like, today is today, but tomorrow is more rapidly expanding, accelerating, and changing. How do you see this change in business coming on your shores? How is your business preparing to be the next evolution of what society and what the world is going to demand from us to be able to create that new value? Christy, go ahead. And then Laura.
Well, so yeah, so what I'm thinking about New World Women right now, and I guess I'll give a little shout out to that is New World Women, is we're talking about new civilization. Like we're having these conversations about like what does work look like 10 years from now? What is what do business models look like as we're evolving this system in industry and commerce? And maybe the grind will take a little more of a back seat because technology is coming up underneath us to support us in a new way. Yeah. And we got to keep it there, right? Like it needs to be the platform. It does not need to be the genius.
Amen, sister.
Yeah. And I think that we are at some crossroads with all of that. And I could say a lot about that, which we don't have time for. But we've got to hold our ground as, human frequency is what creates connection. And that's what creates meaning and passes meaning on from one person to another. And no machine can ever replace that. Mimicry is not enough. So
one-liner, Tiff, got that? Mimicry is not enough. Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, so let me open it up. I want to hear from
Go
other
ahead,
people.
Laura, and then Willard.
No, I think that you're spot on, Christy. That's what I was thinking also in regards to, like what's next. There is a lot of technology that we can use, and there, AI models and different tools that can be used. That there are those that are right, like us, campaigning on authenticity, that sometimes will exclude those models because how certain people are using them don't yet feel authentic. And that's like a baby in bathwater situation, right?
Right.
We don't need to throw away the technology that exists. It's more about utilizing it better and then helping others utilize it better. So part of the work that I do is helping coaches understand what they uniquely do, create branding, create messaging, things like that. I have so many of my coaches that are like, well, I have an AI bot that, right, I chat with. And I'm like, that's cool. How's it working? Because it can become an echo chamber of like, yeah, that's a great idea. You should totally do that. That's fantastic. I just couldn't love it more. And I was like, have you asked it what the flaws in this idea are? And they're like, no, should I? Well, try, see what it says.
Yeah, it's
and right,
so complimentary.
Because there needs to be a balance between those that, right, can help with the identification and the alignment, and then the models that can help with some of the doing.
Mm-hmm. Willard, this is your jam, dude.
Kinda, yeah. No, I love it. I actually have been blessed to have somebody with a master's in AI on my development team. I didn't even know there was a master's in AI until, my friend informed me. I've known him since 2009, and that's the path that he went on. But Laura, I love what you're saying. A lot of clients, when I'm talking to them, it's like, well, I'll just use ChatGPT for that. It's like, okay, but if you don't know how to write the prompt, you're in terrible, terrible shape. Quick example, was on a call with a bunch of AI freaks, is what we actually called ourselves. And one of the gentlemen was like, I came up with this great idea and I went to Chat GPT to have it help me build out a business plan. Give a real short version of it. Parents who are incapable of having children, vetted and paired with parents who have children and need some time away from those children. So pair them together and basically have, trading weekends. Long story short, he went through the whole process. And when it gave him the output, he looked at it and goes, if I did this, I would be in jail. And the clients that we're talking to are going, ChatGPT can save my marketing problems. It can save my business strategy problems. Garbage in, garbage out. If you don't know what you're doing, and like Christy said, use it as a platform, not as a replacement. And that means you have to become more than competent. You have to become very well educated on how you're going to utilize that platform, because otherwise it will drive you into bankruptcy. So I just love what both are saying. But I do believe, and I think Tiffany had mentioned it earlier, that as thought leaders, as business advisors, as coaches, whatever the case may be, if you're not finding a way to bring AI into your business and into your clients' lives in a way not to replace things, but to help buy back some of that time from the grind. First off, help them figure out their process so they know what they can delegate and what they can automate. And
Yeah.
then delegate it, automate it.
Yes.
They can focus on the results producing activities. That's where most business owners that I work with fail. So,
Yeah. And start
Amen.
with process design, right? Start with process design, because
absolutely.
then you can plug AI into particular aspects of a process rather than thinking technology is going to create the process for you.
If you don't have the process, AI is not going to do anything to help you.
Yep. Tildette.
Yes, I think it's very important the conversation we are having as how to include AI or not and all that. But I don't want to also forget to go back to connecting to ourselves, to our humanity,
Yes.
constantly going back to who we are and our genius zone and what we bring to the world. And in connecting to ourselves, our connections to others will strengthen. And in that, really visiting, reflecting, who am I? Who am I becoming? Who do I want to become in my future with my usage of AI with others? And in this new era, how do I want to show up and keep my human connection to myself and others as strong as possible?
And I heard this once said, Tildette, like spot on. It's like we're entering the wisdom economy. Jesse Elder
Mm.
coined this a couple of years ago for me, and I don't know if he coined it or someone else did, and he made me aware of it. But what you're talking about, I think all the conversation so far is pointing us in that clarity of what you want and what you've already done, the best ways to do that. You streamline those things, because if you streamline the crap or you streamline the experiment, you wind up wasting exponentially more resources than not. And that includes your bandwidth. That includes your ability to be present, because at the end of the day, we are the driver, and what we see and the value we're creating in the world is based on how we're showing up. So, like anchor it full circle home. It's like, regardless of the technologies and the acceleration abilities that are out there, the primary thing to remember is we're creating value for other humans who also have connection to themselves and their purpose. And if that gets overlooked for the pursuit of bigger, better, stronger, faster, then you're going to get more businesses failing at an alarmingly quicker rate, because they're not focused here on who they are, what they represent, and where they are willing to create value. And that's not to say their iterations are going to be the same. They're not going to just try and fail and then say goodbye, because it's how we all learn. You win some, you learn some, and that's that. Tiffany, over to you. What are you hearing, and how are you preparing for this shift, and what are you synthesizing from what you've heard so far here?
Some of the nuggets that I've been chewing on, because sometimes I'm looking on the other side of my brain, which direction I want to go with it, is taking this advice as a mom of a 5-year-old and a 7-year-old girl and my girls, right? So it's like the stuff that you're pouring your wisdom out for what, like, oh, my kid's this or my humans that or this. It's like I have the ability right now, as luckily an older mom, to influence them in this proper way that I've even had to work through my own healing of everything that we went through, highs and lows as a kid. And so I'm just taking in kind of all of this advice as a panel for you guys gleaning what Christy's been showing us. So I'm appreciative of all your guys' nuggets that you've thrown out today, because I'm like, this is stuff I'm taking back home with me today.
as
So
as a mom and as a human, as a woman here, and also like in I've so I'm gonna just tell on you a little bit because I can see some of this stuff. Like you're preparing your businesses to be future proof in a way that's like, your super connectorness is the thing that's creating value and creating equity in your fund, in your other businesses that you share. Like you're creating multiple income streams because it's relationship based. So I'm watching your models as you build out kind of represent and resemble this shift in priorities. Like what did Christy say? I wrote down so much today. I'm like, let me find it in my notes. Um it's like where it's lack of boundaries create the grind. It's like, no, let's create the right relationships because that creates abundance. Like I feel like Tiffany, your business models are flipping that over. And so can you
yeah, I mean,
comment
even
on
down to the point when I invented and created this like company that was going to be my thing, it was like, oh, I need a logo, I need a website, I need a pitch deck, I need this. And then I started showing up and they were like, Tiff, I've met you and you're not even reflecting who it is that I thought this person was going to be. And it's really become, I'm the brand. Why didn't I start with me to represent who it is I am? And so now I have this almost like cold financial website when it needs to be like, it needs to be Tiff as the brand, not like my fund, so taking this into like every single business that I have. And now luckily I'm like, oh, as a super connector, I am the brand. And that is every other company that I have, I am the brand too, whenever I'm a part of it. So I appreciate your
Mhm.
perspective on that.
yeah, lady. Christy, as we're kind of workshopping the future and kind of calling BS on what has been in favor of what can be, what
Yeah.
recommendations have you heard here that you're going to take forward with you into your future endeavors,
Mhm.
into your network and your business, or anything else?
Yeah. Well, I love the wisdom economy, and I've been calling it the frequency economy. And I think that there's a connection, right? Because your frequency emerges out of your wisdom, and I think that that is the key for us as creating a new society. Is that it's the frequency of the human heart. It's the frequency of the human voice that's going to
Mhm.
carry us through. It's our creativity, it's our spirit, our imagination, our dreams. And we've got to prioritize that. And we have to teach our children that their dreams actually matter. I think that for many of us, at least for older generation, we were not encouraged to dream. In fact, we were criticized. You're a daydreamer. Your head's up in the clouds all the time, and it's the human imagination that's going, that's going to bring us through.
I absolutely agree. Thank you so much. And I love that perspective. It's our imagination. Like, wake up, everybody. We don't have to fall asleep because it was necessary to be a cog in a machine for a long time. Like, your dreams are the value. It's bringing you forward, leading it. I love it. Tildette, what are you bringing forward with you from this conversation into your life and business?
I think it is a great reminder and a validation as to discern what matters, and I will tie it back to what Christy said, the efforts that support the purpose. And how do we discern to find those efforts are there in alignment, whether we are connecting to ourselves, whether we are using AI, whatever we're doing, really being awake and intentional, and to align and check that the alignment remains as we move forward.
Yeah, and that constant reflection, right? That we make
Yes.
plans and that planning is very important, but reflect, reflect,
Mhm.
reflect, reflect.
Yes.
Like the reflection, it's almost it's imperative to build in
Mhm.
reflection so that you remember and you stay on purpose as you move forward until that like profound. Willard, what are you bringing forward with you from this conversation?
I love the remind. Well, first off, I love the phrase "the wisdom economy." I think that's tremendous. I'm going to start applying that in places, and I'll give you credit because I don't know where else it came from. So you're getting credit for it.
Jesse
Uh,
Elder is
yes, Neil.
the gentleman that introduced it to me. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
and so many things. Christy's brought it up. Tillette's brought it up. Tiffany brought it up. Probably Laura's brought it up as well. But the resounding message that's coming from me is about authenticity. You know, about making sure that you have clarity on who you are, so that radiates in your offer. It radiates in your message. Because my belief is the fact that you want to attract the people to you who radiate with who you are. And if you're trying to be somebody else, you're missing the whole mark. So yeah, just about how to get clarity on that and to present that to the people that you're speaking to.
Yeah, that reminds me of unlearning. Willard, unlearning who we think we're supposed to be, or like Tiff embodied, like I'm supposed to show up and play this role. That authenticity is like, how do we unlearn all the layers of our role in our business? How do I unlearn that I think a CEO needs to be wearing a tie and I'm not a CEO if I'm wearing a scarf? Like unlearning, I think, is the order of the day, which ties right back to Tildet's, reflect is the imperative to remember. And like Christy said, it's not only wisdom, but it's also your frequency. It's who you are that is the anchoring component. Dude, I love this conversation. I'm going to ask Tiffany and then Laura to bring their wisdom here to the table, and then I'm going to open it up for our audience members who have been here patiently witnessing our entire conversation and want to hear what they're picking up from this entire dialogue. Tiff, over to you. How are you? What are you bringing forward into your life and work from this conversation?
Oh my goodness. Well, bringing forward that I need to remain connected to people that think in such a high level as you guys on this panel and have spoken words of wisdom today, because I truly believe that your network is the people who you can run to and get support from and be able to remind you of all these nuggets. Because if you guys are spewing this out right now just like at the tip of your tongue, that means you're living it for the most part every day in your business and yourself. And so I appreciate that when Alyssa called you on the carpet, it was like, oh, this is what I think about this, because that's probably what it is you think about life and business and all of this and the above. So surrounding yourself and having moments like this and being on a panel like this to be able to share words of wisdom, keep it going. Like this is what I do. And I have moments that are scheduled in my calendar for intentional meetings like this. So that way I can remain empowered and remain reminded of the intense wisdom that other people have had, either from experience or from a book or something. And I'm just so appreciative of everybody's time because it's important. Like time is a resource that we're never going to get back. It's not renewable. And I love that we were all to meet, like amazing to be able to meet here today. So thank you.
Yeah, I love putting good people together. This is like the whole reason why this podcast exists is to create an experience. So if you're watching here live and you're in the audience, stay tuned. We want to hear from you. Laura, over to you. What are you bringing forward into your life and business from this experience?
Big river flowy frameworks, Jello frameworks, big river Jello frameworks.
Love
I
it.
just appreciate the interaction and being able to take a look at not only how I'm operating my business, but I appreciate your wisdom, Christy, and from the rest of you that you shared on that generational potential business ownership and really being thoughtful as the current owner manager about what we're creating for the future.
Absolutely. And so for me, the takeaway here is spend more time around people who get it and people who are coming wise to it and help usher folks into that awareness, because being a business owner is not necessarily about the size of your bank account or the size of your brain, but how you use your heart to lead and bring people through an experience of what they're capable of. And I think that has been embodied in every single person that I've had in this conversation today. And looking back over the past few years, these are the kind of rooms that create momentum. This here you've seen in Rise Above the Grind, a VIP panel mastermind, and the amazing Christy Morrell-Stinson bringing her wise wisdom and frameworks to the table, be they Jello or otherwise. You guys are making me hungry. But I do want to pass the mic over now to Jen and Claire, who've been in our studio audience. I'd like to, bring you up and hear kind of what you're picking up that this conversation has put down, your 2-minute debrief. Go ahead, Jen.
I put a lot of great stuff in the chat already, but just to kind of tie it together, this came from something over the past couple weeks too. Lead yourself first and show up fully for you before you're ready. That was just a very kind of all-encompassing thing over the past couple days, so I just wanted to share that. But planning and preparedness, extremely important. We're very logic-minded people, brilliant people. And then we sometimes get stuck on the other side of being stuck in the creative space or imagination, and we're not doing those income producing activities. So like planning and preparedness, very important. But the focus and flow aspect, I'm going to tie this back to the water. What we put out there, it's a mirror and it reflects back to us, all this stuff you guys know probably. But the fact that, water is flowing as well, and it has a frequency, currency, flows like water, they're all connected. So yeah, I like what you guys said about the big river flowing frameworks and the fact that you have to also flow. So that reflection and all of that ties together with what you put out there reflects and comes back to you. But yeah, water's one of my most favorite things. So I just wanted to tie those all together. Mirror, reflection, all of the above.
Right on. Thank you for your wisdom and awareness around this conversation and how it kind of lands for you. Because again, we asked in the beginning of the conversation, define the grind, and I've never heard one person define it exactly the same ever in the 5 or 6 months I've been asking this question consistently. And so thank you, Jen. Over to you, Claire. What are you bringing forward with you from this conversation, the top nuggets and things that are occurring to you over there? And I'm sorry you're having the difficulty here with the video. I don't know what happened or
I
what I
don't,
did.
yeah, I don't know what happened, but I mean, y'all can hear me, so that's fine.
Yes.
Um, oh my gosh, this has been amazing. I've gained a lot of insight. I've also been like listening to you guys talk and learning how to do panels better. Thank you. Um, so my biggest takeaway, I think, from this was that you can't do anything big by yourself. And that I think for myself, that's where I'm headed. I'm headed to bigger things and more alignments, and I can't be in my little cave anymore. So thank you for that. But I also loved that when you said that mistaking effort for progress, because so many people do that. So many people just, do little busy work and they think that they're making things happen, and it's just they're running around in circles, exhausting themselves out. So being more intentional. And then I also took away from where you are most valuable and where your talent and expertise makes profit. So, like to make a big impact in the world, obviously I teach financial education, so obviously money is very big in the world right now, and it has been for a long time, but doing things where you believe in impact and also where you can make profit from that. So it kind of has to go hand in hand in those circles, because so many people, I mean, I love how do you say that? Giving back to people, philanthropical
Yeah.
or whatever that
Giving
is.
back is good.
Giving back to people. I love that. But if, you're just giving all your time and effort into pouring into people, but you're not actually making a profit, you're just draining yourself.
Yeah.
And I do believe that, if you have the ability, you also have the responsibility. So, making sure that you do give back to the world is a big thing. So, thank you guys. I appreciate that. You've given me a lot.
100,000%. This has been my favorite hour of the week, always is. I broadcast in this room with my panel and my experts every single Thursday at 12:30. If you know somebody who would have their needle moved by being an audience member in the seats in this room, please invite them. I will send a follow-up email to the panelists, as well as post something in our WhatsApp community chat where people can subscribe to the events calendar so they can come and participate. Thank you all for being an amazing panel and for rising above and meeting yourself where the grind becomes flow, and we get to redefine how we show up in business and how we show up as individuals. Thank you so much. I will see you in our WhatsApp chat. If you're on the recording here listening to the broadcast, don't go away. We have another amazing episode, guest, and panel queued up for you right after this.